Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Network Podcast. I got Dr. Walton coming in, and I can't wait to have a conversation with him. I can't wait for him to introduce himself. It's about to be insane. I think he's actually showing up any minute. Stay tuned. Hey man, you guys know, right? Every time we have a fire ass show or any guests that come up or any fire people, you know that it's always a good time or it's always a good conversation, right? Now I got brother Dr. Walton coming in today, and I can't wait for him, to introduce himself. Come on my podcast. Yeah, we live today, right? So actually, I think he actually pulled up to the studio right now. So, Dr. Walton, can you please introduce yourself, man? And thank you for coming on my show. Over to you, man.
Hey, Stack, I appreciate you so much. Hopefully you can hear me on your end. I am Dr. Rayon Walton. I am a Doctor of Education in Organizational Leadership. I also have a Master of Business Administration and a background in social psychology from my undergraduate studies. And I'm just excited to be on with Stack today, right? It was serendipitous that we connected. It was just sent from God, essentially, right? Because I was kind of struggling on my solo entrepreneur journey, and when I connected with Stack, he put me on game, right? He put me on, connected me with a lot of wisdom and knowledge in the entrepreneurial field, and I'm just here to just learn, and grow, and connect with each and every one of you guys. But I have a background as a project manager from federal service. So I've been in the military for over 20 plus years, and doing a lot of federal work now. I actually still work in that space as well. So I have lots of knowledge in the background of project management and cost, schedule, performance. I'm also an author. I actually wrote a fictional book, called Caught Up in the Rapture. But I'll turn it back over to Stack, right? I just wanted to make sure I take this opportunity to introduce myself so that way you guys can get a face to the name of
Oh my God, Dr. Walton coming in with the guns already. So I want to continue, Dr. Walton. Thank you for coming on the show. So my first question for you is, what does collaboration mean to you, and how are you using it in today's journey? Let's continue, man.
Absolutely. Collaboration. I feel like if we're not collaborating, right, we're out on an island essentially by ourselves, right? So once we do that, then we'll never be able to actually, move forward. And so networking and collaborating is key, because you want to actually tap into the minds and the hearts of the people who've actually been where you're trying to get to, right? And so if we're just out there just kind of swimming around in the pool by ourselves, right, we could actually be out there, in the ocean, essentially, right? Out there in the ocean, swimming with the big sharks, and actually doing and obtaining and doing all the things that they've done because of the experience and backgrounds that they have, right? And so we should never, find ourselves in a situation where we're starving for knowledge and wisdom, because there's so much of it out there if we actually do the work to find those people, right? Because our gifts are gonna, make room for us, right? So we got to put ourselves out there, because nobody's gonna know, what it is that we want until we open our mouths and start asking, right? You always hear, a closed mouth never gets fed, right? That is a principle, and is true. It's not even just doctrine, right? It's really, a realistic profile, if you really come to look at it, right, of a person that actually wants to move forward in life. Over to you, Stack.
I got Walter. I told you how every time I have, people come through, it's always special guests and it always lighten it up. So my next question for you, Walton, as we start to get into this is, what's something that you wish you would have known earlier in your journey? Let's continue, man. Over to you.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I wish I would have met Stack, probably 5-10 years ago, right? I was actually sharing with Stack a few weeks ago when we first connected and we started having these collaboration and communications, right? I had spent a lot of money essentially trying to get my book done and having the publishing company. Essentially what it felt like was that they took advantage of me, right? Because like all the things that I was doing ahead, and thinking that, they were doing right by me, comes to find out, just from having that conversation with Stack, like, what, I could have did a lot of this stuff on my own, right? But it's like I was saying before, right? If we don't have someone that we're collaborating or connecting with, right? That's really what's going to cause us to make these mistakes, these unnecessary mistakes, right? So, looking back, I'm like, what, I probably could have done, a lot of things, but I also look at it from this perspective as well, right? We don't know what we don't know, right? And then, looking at, hindsight is always 20/20, right? So it's like, now that we have the knowledge, we're armed with the knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Now we will be at a fault if we don't actually move forward and take heed to the advice and actually follow the steps, that other people are encouraging us to do or demonstrating in front of us as a blueprint for us to follow, right? Like a roadmap. So you always want to do things strategically, right? And when you're connected to someone who can mentor you, right? Because that's one of the things I was lacking as well, right? Is like I didn't have any strong mentors, right? You're probably like thinking, man, you're a doctor, like why don't you have that, right? But being a solo entrepreneur and just trying to figure things out on your own, right? Sometimes you get led down these different pathways until you actually get that connection, right? And once you get that connection, you want to hold on to that and you want to steer clear of anything else that's going to distract you, from moving forward and achieving your goals in life.
I told y'all I had a special guest for y'all. He's heating it up. God dang it. Now, Dr. Walton, what's something you can tell somebody that's trying to do something just like you? Let's continue this conversation. Let's go.
Absolutely, right? Find out exactly what it is that you want to accomplish, right? You got to find out what it is that your expectations are, right? Like, what do you expect from the universe? What do you want to see in your future, right? And then start making a plan, right? Don't just try to go out there and try to wing it, because you're not going to get to that ultimate goal that you're trying to get to, right? That's one of the things I would definitely, tell other people who are looking to do what I'm doing, right? Yes, you may even want to, if you start off as a solo entrepreneur, right? Like, take heed to the advice that you will hear from people like Stack and myself, right? Who've been there, done that, right? So people who've already experienced what it is that you're trying to get to, right? And then start to create that blueprint, right? Because without that blueprint, it's like you don't have a compass, right? You calibrate that compass and then you actually start moving towards that destination, right? It's going to take time, right? It takes steps. Those incremental steps, though, also make a difference because, I'm Jamaican, by background, and my parents always tell me, like, every mickle make a muckle, right? And what exactly does that mean, right? It's like, and then the other thing was one cocoa full basket, right? It takes those little tiny steps, right? So don't try to rush and get ahead of yourself, right? Start, finding out what that blueprint is, get mentorship, and then actually start, taking steps to actually get, even if it's one little step, one small step every day is going to get you to that level, right? It's like called that snowball effect, right? Is a snowball. You'll see what happens, right? It will start off as a tiny little, particle in on the ground, right? But then once that thing starts to roll, right, it starts to build momentum, and you start to see how it becomes a massive artifact, if you would, right? A massive fixture, right? That everyone is in awe of, right? Because look, you started from this little thing, and then over time, as you start to develop, you start to see the change maker, right? It's like you don't plant a seed today and expect to see fruit tomorrow, right? It's three steps, and I like to talk about like the things in increments of three, right? The triad, essentially, right? You've got to plant, water, then you get the increase, right? Seed, time, and then harvest, right? Go through that process, right? They always hear people say, well, trust the process. Well, it's important, right? You need to be able to trust the process, but you also need to know what the process is in order to get to that end state that you're looking for.
Ooh-wee, Dr. Walton's in the building. So, Dr. Walton, I know that, you know, the time is short. We gotta be moved. What's anything else you can drop on our crowd? And also, where can they follow you at on different platforms or social media? Don't worry, Walton will be back on the show. Don't even worry. I got plenty of more stuff to talk with him about. But he has to dash soon. So talk to me, Walton. What's something else you want to leave us with, and where could they follow you at on social media platforms? Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So one of the things I want to make sure, you know, is I'm a man of faith, and I always want to let people know, right? Like faith is a principle, right? We don't have to be all spooky and, you know, and you know, get into, you know, deep conversations about faith, right? But it's essentially, what is your belief system, right? It's that mindset of expectation. If we don't transition our mindset, you know, to expectation, to be able to get to that next level, to identify and then to start doing the work, right? It's kind of like a curse word sometimes, right? We start telling people you got to do work, that 4-letter W word, you know, it's like people just kind of run away from that, right? They start to flail, and it's like you sprayed, you know, Raid, you know, around a bunch of roaches, or you turn the lights on in a dark room that is roach infested, right? I'm not saying that we're roaches. I'm just using that as a metaphor. Right. So just try to identify, you know, what it is that you want to achieve. Right. Like and then have the faith to believe that it can happen. Right. You know, and just start working towards that. Right. So it's faith without works is dead. And so you've got to do those two things that are coupled together. Right. Faith and works. Right. And then, you know, if you guys are looking to, you know, connect with me, like I said, I'm also on a lot of different social medias. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. And then I'm also going to be on, I'm also on Instagram as well, right? So I'm just doing some things to build up my brand and just get my name out there. So, you know, as you see me in these, you know, these social media streets, right, just feel free to connect. You know, I don't bite, don't get intimidated by the doctor, right? I'm just a normal person. You know, I'm down to earth and I connect, right? So just looking forward to like this amazing experience. And, you know, I really appreciate Stack, you know, for taking the time and opportunity to, you know, to introduce me to everyone and just get things rolling, right? So let's go.
Ooh-wee. I told y'all I had Walton in here. He'll be back on for more episodes in the future on, you know, the network show. He'll also be on Clubhouse. I know that he told you guys he's on everything else, but he forgot to mention Clubhouse. He's on there as well. He will be coming in with the community on media mentorship and having rooms throughout the week as he starts to build his brand. So Walton, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming to the network podcast. We will see you later. Thank you.